said, guys, we didn't come here for no reason.
Hey, my brother, put a smile on your face. Okay? Because Florida State, if we gonna do it then, we do it big. Let's go, baby.
Here's the snap, handoff on the belly dive, and Stevenson's gonna try to root his way in. He breaks through. He's got the 10, 5, 3, 2 yards, touchdown FSU. Yes, Ronnie Stevenson, senior playing his final game. I thought he was tackled to the line of scrimmage. Root hogging his way, and he broke into daylight, and he scores a touchdown.
If we don't get penalties, and we don't get fumbles, and we don't get interceptions, we can win the dead-gum ball game.
I said, are you strong? They said, I'm strong if you strong. I said, we strong then.
What are you doing?
Down to the 50, down the sideline to the 40, down to the 30. He separates. He's to the 20, to the 10, to the 5. Touchdown, Florida State.
Let's party, Tallahassee.
He's got PK Sam. Oh, man. He makes the catch. Touchdown, Marshall. Touchdown, PK Sam. 55 seconds left. Sam takes a touchdown catch from Ricks. It's 52 yards. 52 yards. Florida State leads 37-34. I see you, PK Sam.
To Double Fries, No Slaw. This is a little bit of a somber episode. We'll get to that a little bit later, but your host, TJ Pittenger, alongside Richie Barnes and Freddie Stevenson. An 0-1 episode, so not the most fun. But how you guys doing tonight outside of that?
How you doing, Richie? I'm doing good. Hey, I woke up to see another day. I'm blessed.
Hey, I woke up. I got to watch some NFL football today. I didn't get the result I wanted there either. But at the end of the day, 2020's not been great to anybody. We're here. We all woke up. We have football going on. I can't complain. I'm happy with life right now.
Yeah, so we are going to get into a little bit, a lot of bit about Florida State's season opening loss against Georgia Tech over the weekend here in a little bit. But first, want to make sure that we mention that Double Fries No Slaw is brought to you by Guthrie's in Tallahassee. You can visit both of their locations, 2550 North Monroe Street and 1818 West Tennessee Street. I saw Andy Staples was in Tallahassee yesterday covering the game. Hopefully he stopped by and got him a box, a Double Fries No Slaw box. If you go to Guthrie's anywhere, I see they're kind of all over. They're in Alabama. There's a few in Florida. There's one in Atlanta. There's a couple more in Georgia. There's some in Ohio, Kentucky. If you are anywhere near a Guthrie's, tag us in a picture of it on any social media, and I will mail you a Double Fries No Slaw sticker. I've got some over here under my daughter's million princess dresses, but I will mail you one and tag us in that. But don't get coleslaw if you're going to tag us in it. It has to be Double Fries No Slaw. So we have a great guest tonight. We'll get into a bunch of other stuff later, but I want to go ahead and bring him on. I won't do this introduction justice at all, but just an absolute FSU legend, a guy that is smarter than all of us put together, a Rhodes Scholar, Myron Rolle. Myron, how you doing tonight?
Doing well. How are you?
Very good, man. We really appreciate your time and hanging out with us. I know we talked about a little bit off air. You've got kind of a million things going on, and I know you're busy, but appreciate you taking the time to chat with us tonight. Let's talk about anything but the game that I know you said you watched on Saturday. That's why we're starting with you. Start with the good news, and then we'll talk about Georgia Tech later. We talked a little bit off the air. You currently right now you are in a global neurosurgery fellow at Harvard. Tell us a little bit about that. What's going on there?
Yeah, so I'm currently, a resident in neurosurgery at Mass General Hospital, Harvard Medical School, and through our 7-year residency, we have a bit of a break to do research, and a lot of my colleagues will do bench research, lab research on mice, dissecting different parts of the brain, and trying to advance the discipline through basic science. But for me, I've always been interested in global health. And I found this global neurosurgery fellowship at Harvard, where I'm able to travel to different parts of the world and help develop the neurosurgical infrastructure in very marginalized, underdeveloped countries around the world. In particular, I'm from the Bahamas, so I have a keen interest in the Caribbean, developing their surgical capacity, dealing with things as far as workforce development, getting more neurosurgeons sort of made in that region, developing their capacity to handle neurosurgical cases. So more operating rooms, more bed spaces, getting the perioperative nursing up to snuff, getting equipment down there that's more advanced and technologically sound, so they're able to do more complex cases rather than sending some of their cases to Fort Lauderdale or Miami, where it becomes cumbersome and expensive for patients. So there's a lot of sort of building of the neurosurgical microenvironment in these developing parts of the world. And I'm able to sort of expand on my passion at this particular moment. I'm very excited about it. And it's been a great fellowship so far.
How long does that last? How long do you do? Is it just a year or is it longer? I know a lot of fellowships in the medical field are a year.
Mine's 2 years, and so right now with COVID, everything is pretty much remote and virtual. Right now, it's about developing relationships with the United Nations, World Health Organization, different regional blocks of health societies, different ministries of health, and then next year, starting of July 2021, I'll actually be able to travel and get down to some of these places. I'm going to Uganda for about 5 months in sub-Saharan Africa. And then, as I mentioned, going back to the Caribbean to help my home region. So very exciting stuff down the pipeline.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
Myron, obviously, man, this pandemic just took the entire globe by storm out of nowhere. How has your day-to-day life changed during this pandemic? Because obviously you're going through your residency now, but I have to imagine that it looks a lot different since, January than it did, maybe 6 weeks ago.
Oh man, unbelievable. So I started residency at Mass General in Boston to do brain and spine and try to fix some very challenging pathologies. And when COVID hit, our hospital was hit very hard. Boston, New York, New Jersey, as you remember, were one of the hot spots. And so we really transformed our whole hospital. Our ICUs were full of COVID-19 patients. Our neurosurgical floors, where we would send our post-operative patients, turned into a COVID-only floor. Our elective cases were canceled. We started to do a skeleton crew at the hospital and didn't allow any visitors in. Our outpatient clinics were done now virtually, where we would have to call our patients and say, hey, your CAT scan looked okay. We're going to wait another 4 or 5 months for your brain tumor to take it out because COVID is going crazy here at this hospital. So it was unbelievable. I had to manage a couple COVID-19 patients. Matter of fact, I operated on a guy, young man, who had COVID-19, as well as he had AIDS, and he also had cryptococcal meningitis. So I had to do all of that in one guy, and it was an unbelievable experience. I actually operated on 3 people with COVID, but that one was one that really stood out to me because he was very, very sick. But, it's really transformed everything. It has really made virtual sort of connections sort of the thing. The benefit, honestly, from it has been that I've been able to sort of get away from the hospital a little bit at times and get to see my wife, who's a pediatric dentist at UAB in Birmingham, Alabama. And so when I'm not needed in Boston, I'm able to sort of get down to Alabama, see her, spend time with her, and really sort of just be a little bit more dedicated to my family. So it's had its pluses and minuses, but it certainly has rocked the medical community and obviously has rocked the regular community, on its heels.
Okay, so I got a question. I kind of talked to you about it earlier when we hopped on. As athletes, we constantly hear about how this career in the professional football league doesn't last long. I had a short stint, and I know you went on to do your thing you're doing now. How important is it for these guys to set themselves up for success in life outside of football? Because I'm constantly preaching this to people, and we always, like me personally, I was always the guy when they came in and they talked to me, they would say, okay, 3 years, and you may not even get that. I'm different. I'm going to play 10, 15 years. Kind of talk to these guys about how important that is. A lot of guys don't really understand that this is a small part of your life. So even if you do have the opportunity to play a long time, you still got a long amount of time to live if you're fortunate. So these guys really got to understand that they got to take life after ball more serious than they are taking it right now.
Yeah, no, Freddie, I appreciate that, man. And I just wanted to say on air and on camera that I'm very proud of you, everything that you've done, what you represent. I remember watching you ball, and, we didn't play at the same time. I'm older than you, but I always remember how consistent you were, how I knew when you got the rock, it was like, okay, not fumbling. He's getting positive yards. He's going to ball. He's got his alignment assignment down. And just reliable, man. Just a great teammate, and everyone loves you, and I do as well. So very proud of you, brother. And and thank for having me on this too. But I think honestly, Freddie, the idea of connecting what we do every single day as athletes, student athletes, to what you can do once you finish playing, I think is something that has been missed or at least underappreciated, right? So I tell student athletes all the time, your development as a football player, basketball player, swimmer, track star, tennis player, golfer, whatever, your development gives you the requisite design to be a great leader in whatever discipline it is that you choose, whatever thing you're passionate about. So what I mean by that is when you're in the weight room, the locker room, the practice field, the game field, whatever, you are developing discipline, focus, hard work, teamwork, communication, taking constructive criticism, mitigating pressure, knowing how to be flexible and adaptable. You're doing all these things all the time, and it just happens naturally to you because you're a gifted athlete, as you were. And it's just like these traits are so valued in the workforce, so valued in corporate America, so valued in education, in law, in business, in medicine, like I'm in now, that I have my bosses telling me, hey, I'd love to get a football player all the time. I love to have a football player come be a doctor, come be a nurse, come be a physician assistant, come work in the health space, because they know that they're going to be reliable, consistent, just like you were on that field all the time. They're going to have that focus. They're going to be able to, shed away distractions and get the job done. And so, I think the important thing is to hone in on some of these aspects that you've already built inside and developed inside your corporal material body all your life as an athlete, and use the networks that you have. I think another thing that we are, short ourselves on is, building those relationships. When you're in college, I mean, in Florida State, you have the capital right there. You have people who are football fans who love you. You have, boosters. You have, other people in the athletic department. You have a bright and really budding university that has all sorts of people that are willing to sort of help. But if you don't get outside of your comfort zone, outside of that bubble, to say, hey, I'm Myron Rolle. I'm interested in medicine. Is there any way that we can connect, or any way that I can sort of advance my career, using this relationship? And they would be more than happy to help you. It's just about you getting outside of, hey, man, I'm a baller. I can do it on my own. I can get it done. It's just about reaching out for those networks. That is so vitally important. We're very in a silo. We operate on our own because our whole life we've been able to sort of get the job done just with hard work and doing it on our own. But when you get out in the world, you're going to need people to sort of open those doors for you. And once those doors are open, you kick that thing through, you run through it, and you show that you belong there. So I think those are a couple of the thoughts that come to my mind immediately when I think about the transition from being a student athlete to being, a leader in the regular community.
Yeah, you kind of touched on it in your answer just then, but I just want to kind of get your thoughts on this, because I see it oftentimes, like you said, football players are just guys and athletes in general. The grind they have to go through, so many different employers look for people like that because they know the discipline that it takes to be successful at that high level. You can't find guys like that anywhere. And I feel like a lot of these guys, they limit themselves after their playing career because all they think about is ball. You're retired, and all you think about is, I still want to play. I still want to play. And you're living so much in the past that you can't move forward. You're limiting your opportunities. What can you say to these guys? I see it all the time. I'll be talking to friends, their career ended 3 years ago, and they're still constantly thinking about, I just need another opportunity. And they're limited in opportunities that are in front of them and passing up so many more.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that, my advice to those gentlemen would be to read, to expose yourself, to start being active with your career. Just as you were active about trying to figure out how to cover this, corner route, just as you were active about how to get your hands in the right position to catch this pass or to line up appropriately so that you're able to get to the deep half, if you're playing cover two, you've done all these things necessary to figure out what it is I need to do next. And if you want to be a valuable member of the community and you want to, have a life for yourself, and develop yourself as an inspiration for your community, people who look up to you, wants to say, you know what, he finished playing ball, but he was more than just an athlete. When he took off his helmet, his identity didn't stop. Once he finished playing, he was able to still be valuable, still be a difference maker and a game changer in the game of life. I think it's about being active with how you follow your passions and how you even expose yourself to passions. I always say, man, the exposure is the key to sort of enlightening yourself and advancing forward. Whether it be getting on Twitter, this very social media driven life that we have, and finding something in business or in education or even in the sport that really piques your interest. Whether it be talking to former players, talking to your former coaches, maybe your academic counselors that you had a good relationship with, and just asking them about different opportunities that are out there and that could use your skill set. At this point, it's not about being bashful. It's not about, sort of saying, I'll wait for things to drop in my lap. It's about really, really taking the initiative and saying, I have something to offer and I am a talented individual and there's people who want to help me, but there's a bridge that needs to be created and needs to be overcome in order for that to happen. And so, I think it starts with sort of the personal responsibility and personal initiative to say, I'm more than just a player. I'm more than just what my number said or my helmet had me on. And just to go forward with it. I think there's a lot of guys who can do valuable and amazing work in the community, but just haven't tapped into their potential just yet.
I got one last question, and I'll pass it over to the guys. I know you hear this all the time. How difficult was it to forego the draft that year and go on to Oxford? I know you were highly rated that year, and this is your lifelong dream, but you went on to go to Oxford, and later the next year you went to the NFL, but your stock kind of dropped a little bit. How difficult was that decision?
Well, Freddie, it was tough, man. I mean, it was very hard. You and I and others, we go to Florida State because, we got great coaching and an opportunity to play professional football. Coming out of high school in New Jersey, I was getting recruited by Harvard, Princeton, Dartmouth, Yale, Penn, all the Ivies, and obviously all the major Division I colleges too. And a lot of my classmates and coaches were saying, why don't you go to an Ivy League school? I said, well, I don't want to play on local New Jersey State, TV. I want to play on ABC prime time, man, and I'm trying to get to the league. Penn State wasn't that good at that point. Rutgers was sort of coming up. They had Ray Rice and Justin Leonard and the McCourty twins, Kenny Britt, but nothing like FSU. And my cousin Samari Rolle played at Florida State. So, I had that pedigree there as well. And so when I had the opportunity to get drafted, let me back up. When I came out of high school, I knew that I was only going to play 3 years at Florida State. And that may sound like a little cocky, but I said, look, I'm the number one player coming out of Jersey. I said, I'm only playing 3 years. I'm going to get my degree and I'm out. I'm gone. And frankly, this is something a lot of people don't know. I heard a guy from University of Washington say that on his recruiting trip. And I thought that was a very boss statement. I said, man, that's very bold to say you're only playing here for 3 years. There was a guy named I think Reggie Williams. He played for the Jaguars. I believe that's his name. He was a wide receiver. And I said, okay, I'm playing for 3 years, get my degree, getting out. And when all these things started to happen, got my degree, won a Rhodes Scholarship, I said, I'm getting out. I'm going to go to the league. But there was a conflict in that I could not delay the Rhodes Scholarship and go to the league first. I was like, I'm going to go to the NFL, play my 8 years, whatever, how long I play, God spare life. And then I go back to Oxford. Well, the Rhodes Committee in England said, no, you can't do that. You either take it now or you don't get it. And so it became a very tough choice, man. I said, I'm going to give up millions of dollars. I'm going to give up a draft spot. These NFL teams are going to think I'm not serious about football. They're going to think I quit on my team. They're going to think that, I'm more interested in academics than athletics. All of these things went through my head. But at the end of the day, looking at where I'm at now as, a neurosurgeon, trying to operate on kids around the world, I think it was the right choice, because when I look at people who see my story, they draw inspiration from it and say, you know what, you chose academics over athletics. You chose education, which can last you for a long time, over the fast money or the high draft pick of the National Football League. And plus I got my taste of the NFL, got there, able to say that I was able to join, a team and be a part of it. But it was a tough choice. At the end of the day, I think I made the right choice, and not so much for me, but more so for the people looking at my story and saying, I can do exactly what Myron Rolle did. He is somebody who I can use as an example of where I want to go in life. And I thought that was amazing.
No doubt, much respect.
And Myron, man, like, how difficult was that? Because I know you're aware, you received criticism from, the fan base or whoever about taking academics more seriously than football, which is something you wouldn't think. But, as a rabid fan base, they want to win football games. And that's what they care about most. And it is what it is. And you kind of, you took football very seriously, but you also made it clear, I'm at Florida State to study. Playing football is it's a bonus. It's a great, it got you there. You could have got anywhere with that, but to know, and I'm sure you had friends and other people saying, man, like, you really need to put more focus on football because this could be your future. But I think, like you mentioned, your story, you put academics first, and that could be an inspiration to a 16, 17-year-old kid who says, no, my only way out is football. Maybe that's not the case for them. Maybe they do have other ways out. But how difficult was that? Did you hear a lot of that criticism or that noise in the background about, man, this guy, he could be, a top 10 pick if he focused on football, but he cares too much about his studies. How difficult was that?
Yeah, it was very difficult because, you think that being a student athlete or doing well in school was sort of put on you ever since you were younger. They say, always got to get your grades, got to get your grades. And then when you do it on a level that maybe is higher than than they expect, or maybe than they've ever seen, then it's like, oh, pull it back. You're doing too much. You're listening to organic chemistry tapes too much. You're, trying to be involved in too many other extracurriculars. But for me, it was like, man, once I got a taste of how knowledge, education, how involvement in the community, how being a citizen of the world, having a breadth of talent and a breadth of skills, how developing networks and relationships, how being altruistic and having a sincere care for the marginalized communities around the world and around the country. Once I got a taste of what that felt like, and how I knew that experience and those developing sort of moments felt the same as getting an interception on the field or making a big tackle, I said, no, this has got to be a parallel road. This can't be one versus the other. It's not a one plan or a two plan. This is a 1A and 1B. It's like they're working right in concert with each other. And so I became sort of stubborn in a way to say, look, this is who I am. This is who I want to be. And, we're not going to sort of pigeonhole ourselves or compartmentalize ourselves just to doing one thing. There's an opportunity to do more. And if I end up being the pioneer or maybe the trailblazer for this sort of pathway, then, so be it. And if it requires me to sacrifice something or, to forgo something, then I'll do it, because I feel that our community, as you see now, requires people who want to be leaders, want to make bold decisions, want to be in a position where they may be criticized or maybe a little bit vulnerable, who step outside the box and say, here we are. And here's something that I'm passionate about. And I'm going to lead through, my myopia and through the skills that I've developed in my life. And I think football was a part of that, but education was a part of that as well. Extracurricular activities was a part of that. Community development and community service was a part of that. All of these things help, I think, make me the leader who I am today, the man who I am, the father who I am. And I don't regret those decisions whatsoever.
Yeah, man. And I think the perfect example of that, we go back to, I believe it's your final year at Florida State, where you're interviewing for the Rhodes Scholarship. Was it in Alabama? I'm pretty sure, or somewhere right here in the Southeast.
Alabama. Mm-hmm.
And then the NCAA gives you a special waiver to take a private plane up to Maryland to play in that game. The defense pitches a shutout. And that's had to be the coolest feeling, because it wasn't the best season, but that game was awesome. And I can't imagine having to wake up in the morning, go do interview for something as prestigious as the Rhodes Scholarship, go play in a conference football game in the other side of the coast on that same night. So that, you tell your story, and I just think of that, how all that happened. And looking back now, because that was, 10, 12 years ago or so, that what do you think of that night now, and kind of it's where it brought you through life from there?
Yeah, it was an amazing night. I mean, I knew that it was going to be a conflict when I got the invitation to be a finalist for a Rhodes Scholarship and interview in Birmingham, Alabama. I was one of the, I think 16 or so people who interviewed in that Southeast region. But then also we were playing University of Maryland, and it was a very important conference game. Once I got permission from the NCAA to sort of do both things, once I got permission from Coach Bowden to be able to, miss a couple meetings and miss half of the game, my focus was completely on securing that scholarship. I had my teammates praying for me. Clint Purvis was our team chaplain. He called me and was praying for me. I had so much people pulling for me. And I tell this to a couple of friends who asked me how it felt that day. I felt like I couldn't lose. I know that sounds maybe a little bit elitist, but I just felt like I had so much power behind me through my friends and teammates and my brothers who didn't know anything about the Rhodes Scholarship. I had you guys know Nigel Bradham. Nigel played with me. And I remember he texted me and misspelled the word Rhodes Scholarship, right? He spelled it almost like the roads that you drive on, not Cecil Rhodes. And he wouldn't know that. I mean, why would he know about the scholarship or how to spell this gentleman's name? But he texted me and said, hey, man, it's like, go get that thing. And for someone from Wakulla, Crawfordville, who had no idea about a Rhodes Scholarship before, but loved me as a teammate, loved me as a brother, pulled for me, prayed for me, personally reached out to make sure that I was doing my thing. And there was several other players who did the same thing. I felt like I couldn't lose that day. I had the power and the backing of my teammates, my boys, to go do what I had to do. And I interviewed. Thankfully, by the grace of God, everything went well. Got quickly on a plane, got up to Maryland, got to the game around the second quarter. We were trouncing Maryland, so they didn't really need me, but got into the game and everything went well. It was a victory for our university, a victory for my family, a victory for student athletes around the country, a victory for my hometown, my home country, the Bahamas too. You know, it was a very special night, one that I'll never forget.
Taking it back, I'm sure you've seen it, but like there's a YouTube clip that somebody took from the stands with you running back out of the field. I mean, it's like terrible video because we didn't have iPads for phones back then, so it's like all shaky and like the quality's terrible even like 12 years ago. But everybody like starts cheering and stuff because they knew what you were doing. So yeah, it meant a lot. I mean, it just meant a lot to us as fans too, right? Like not just to know like and be able to be proud of somebody that was just doing something so momentous. So yeah, that video is cool. I'll tweet it out later if you're listening to this and haven't seen that video of Myron running back on at Maryland. But taking it to the field or staying on the field there, what was the maybe play or two or moment or two or game or two? Like what was the highlight of your time on the field at FSU, or just, maybe a couple, right? Like a couple of things that stand out to you specifically.
Yeah, so I think two situations stick out to me on the field. One is my first ever tackle, and it was against a good friend of mine. We were playing Clemson at home. This is my freshman year, and they had two really good running backs, James Davis and C.J. Spiller. C.J.'s from Florida. We recruited him heavily to come to FSU, but he chose to go to Clemson. And C.J. and I, we were friends in high school. We were in the U.S. Army All-American game together. And we were roommates during that whole week in San Antonio. And we were very close. And at that point, he hadn't decided whether to go to Clemson or Florida State. But so I was trying to recruit him all week. And but we remained very tight. He's a very Christian and spiritual guy. So we bonded in our faith. And, I came in for a snap, I think in the second quarter or so. And we're playing jet robber, which is pretty much our baseline defense, where sometimes I have to come down in the box as a strong safety. And I had to fill the B gap. My responsibility was that. CJ got to the B gap, but then decided to bounce out a little bit because it closed on him. And then I had to sort of, be the force player and make sure that, he didn't bounce outside because he's very fast, right? Get outside is a problem. And I remember just being able to shoot low, tackle him for a 1 yard loss, and hearing the public address announcer say, tackle on the play, Myron Rolle, just in the lights in the stadium. First time ever as a college athlete, I was like, I'm here, And I remember my boy, Tony Carter, who plays cornerback, he looked at me like, hey, man, line up, man, get ready for the next play. I'm like, oh, man, I was in a fog, man. I was like, I wasn't even focused, man. So that was crazy. And I think the second situation or second game that really stood out to me was University of Miami. Played my junior season down in University of Miami. We're beating them up. Christian Ponder, Greg Carr, giving them work. Anton Smith doing well. TC, Tony Carter had a pick. I had like 3 or 4 pass breakups, like 9 tackles, really a solid game. But I think that game, I was able to be sort of an all-around player, just showcase my skills in the passing game and also in the run support. We ended up beating Miami. My family, I have a lot of Bahamian family down in Miami, so it was fun to see my boys before the game, my family before the game. And, Samari lives in Miami, from Miami. So it's just like, it was like coming home and being able to, display my talent down there, and probably one of my most complete games I've ever played. It was a lot of fun, and we won, so that made it even better.
Yeah. We talked a little bit about this off air, but you said you do kind of keep up with and follow Florida State still. I don't want to ask your thoughts on Thursday. I'm sorry, on Saturday's game, but what are your thoughts on just, transitioning coaches? I mean, you played for, somebody that many people probably consider, I mean, everybody on this show is going to say he's the greatest coach of all time, right? So what are your thoughts on FSU transitioning coaches? I mean, are you familiar at all with Norvell? What is your kind of like outlook? Again, just let's pretend that Saturday night didn't happen, but what's your outlook for this team going forward? We're all trying to pretend that, I guess.
Yeah. So Coach Norvell coming from Memphis, obviously they had a great team there. And I think the hire was something initially that I know a lot of alum, former players and I would talk about. And, and I think initially our idea was that we were going to go after a huge name, right? Somebody who can make a huge splash, like a Bob Stoops or something like that, right? Really high profile, just kind of bring the name recognition and the name cachet to develop some buzz around around the university and our program that had for some time been, unfortunately underachieving. But when he got the call and the hire was made for Coach Norvell, we had to sort of look into his career, what he's done. His teams have always been solid. They've been hard nosed. They've been, well coached, very disciplined, and they've been overachievers, in my opinion. You're recruiting at Memphis, where you have the big juggernaut of University of Tennessee right there in Knoxville. It's not a major, Power 5 sort of situation that you're in. You might not be getting the 5-star tier talent of South Florida, Central Florida, North Florida, or even just the Southeast region in general, but you're getting players who fit your system and meet a certain personality and meet a certain skill set that can work in your program. So, after we learned more about him and gave some more time to sort of digest the hire, we were very excited about it. Obviously, some things happened in the offseason with some of the players and him, maybe not being on the same page, and sort of growing pains in communication and social media era. But I think in general, our outlook on his tenure remains positive, that he can, develop these players, keep them disciplined, keep them focused, get them on the same page, and really make the product on the field what it should be. I remember when I was getting recruited, Warwick Dunn called me and said, "Myron, it's about the product on the field. All the glitz and glam, all the garnet and gold, all the pride, the tradition, all that stuff, we built that, but that has nothing to do with you right now, right? You're stepping into something that was made before you. And now it's your opportunity to put the product on the field to keep it going." And once these players and coaches recognize that, which I think they do, that, they have responsibility to just ball out for the name in front of their jersey, the name in the back of their jersey. I think it's, I think we can do some things. Obviously, our recent game wasn't exemplary experience and output, but it's a long season, and he's just getting started. So to evaluate him on one game where maybe we underachieved a little bit, I think is unfair. But in my opinion, and the opinion of a lot of my brothers, we have a positive outlook. We feel that he's going to do well, and we feel that these guys are going to buy in and eventually turn the corner, shake off the rust, and put a good product on the field.
Yeah, he inherited a situation unlike anybody else ever has, inheriting, a top 15, 20 program of all time during a global pandemic, coming off of, a broken bull streak and everything else. So, yeah, he's definitely got his work cut out for him. So, yeah, now nobody's here ready. We're all a little depressed right now, but nobody's here ready to jump off the ship, after week one. I've got one more, then I'll pass the mic off to Freddie or Richie or something. But you talked about keeping in contact with some of your boys and former players and stuff like that. Who do you have to list everybody, but do you guys have a group chat of guys that played 10, 12, 15 years ago? Are there a bunch of guys in there, or are there, just a few of you, or what's that? How's that work? You guys stay pretty close?
Yeah, we do. We stay pretty tight. And, it's definitely a brotherhood. I currently have a group chat going with Brian McFadden, Travis Johnson, Greg Jones. Those guys played a little before me, but we got to know each other through training together in Orlando, Florida, at a place called at Wildwater Sports Disney, under a guy named Tom Shaw, a speed performance coach.
Okay.
Yeah, Freddie, T. Shaw. Yeah. So, we all sort of, did that and got close there. We've had off season sort of Zoom meetings where all of us get on, from Ernie Sims to Crow Marty to Jameis to, even the real young guys like, PJ. It's about forming and creating and consistently being for each other. And that bond is real. You won't experience anything like a locker room again, in my opinion. Even in neurosurgery, I have colleagues that are on the same intellectual frequency and wavelength, and we obviously share the bond of loving the central nervous system. But the conversations, the camaraderie, the fellowship is just not the same as it is in the locker room. And so you see a brother who played Florida State, just like Freddie and I, right? I had it with him. We weren't in the same era. A lot of these things are different, but nevertheless, I come on here and he asked me to be on his podcast, and I say absolutely, without question, without hesitation. And it's not because I'm trying to gain something from him or trying to gain something from me. It's a mutual respect that we share through that lineage of playing at Florida State. Anything he asked me, boom, I got you. Or if he said, "Hey, Myron, I got a kid who's interested in health and they want to be a doctor, would you mind talking to him or her and you know, spending some time? No problem, no question. And again, it's not because we have spent, you know, weekends hanging out together, doing all these things. It's literally an unwritten and sort of fraternal bond that exists between players, and I love it. It's unlike anything else. I know you hear it often, but maybe you don't, you know, really feel it and capture it through, you know, a story like that. It's amazing, and it can never be duplicated, frankly. Not even the NFL, because you have so much revolving door in the NFL. It's like one day you're on the team, the next day a guy gets cut, they're bringing in 6 guys to replace him, and it keeps going and going. But college and playing at FSU and being with guys who are like-minded, who are focused, who went through that same experience you did, it's unmatched.
Yeah, I think that's so cool. And I think that fans hear that and probably have heard like much smaller, heard that like not explained so much, right? Like they just kind of hear like, oh yeah, we're brothers forever, you know, like whatever. And then it moves on. But like really hearing how detailed that is, like hearing some of those names, hearing like your relationship with Freddie, even though again, you guys didn't play, like that, to me, that is so cool. And I think fans will really appreciate hearing that as well. Because I mean, we're all just, I mean, we're fanatics, right? Like that's literally what the word fan is, you know? And so, yeah, you guys are our heroes. And so we want to hear that. We want to hear that you guys are like, I mean, we want to hear that you guys all throw the pads back on and go play on some Saturday. You know, like, that's what we want to hear. But yeah, no, that's super dope. So, all right, I'll shut up and let somebody else say something here.
Yeah, so Myron, we were talking off air a little bit. I know your brother McKinley. He and I worked together with the Scout Network for a few years, covering you actually when you were playing at Florida State. And we got your thoughts on Coach Norvell and the program right now. But McKinley, he's currently the head coach at Dwyer High School in Jupiter. They've had a lot of really good players come out of there. Nick O'Leary, if the Florida State fans will know, Matt Elam, who, you know, obviously he went to UF, but he was a really good player out of that school. So your brother's there now. What were his thoughts when he first met Coach Norvell, as well as his entire staff of assistants?
He was very pleased when Coach Norvell came down to Palm Beach County. You know, my brother was like, "Man, this guy is legit, Myron. You know, I like him. I had a very solid conversation with him. I think he's interactive. He's, you know, engaging. He sort of gets on your level. You know, he's not trying to be disconnected. I think they're really trying to develop some roots down there in South Florida. As you know, the talent in that area is amazing. I mean, Palm Beach, West Palm Beach, Broward County, obviously Dade. There's a lot of great players, a lot of great athletes who, you know, for the past couple of years have been looking elsewhere than staying in the state, or, you know, maybe going to that other school with orange and blue. I don't need to call their name. But so it's just, he feels very strongly that Coach Norvell is having a particular interest in high school coaches and allowing them to sort of voice their opinions and promote players who may fit the program. Coach Dugans has come down to Dwyer and seen the boys and saw them work out and met some of the players. And Coach Dug was my coach, or on the coaching staff when I was at Florida State, and obviously played at FSU, so he's got a long history there. So I think FSU is trying to plant some seeds in that area. And Coach Norvell has got a very welcomed reception. And my brother feels, just like many other Palm Beach County coaches, that they're going to do well in recruiting that area.
I got a question. This is a story we used to always hear. I don't know how true it is. They would tell us about a story about you during summer workouts. I don't know how true it is. You know, a lot of guys, they got this crazy misconception about smart guys being soft. And
let me stop right there, Freddie. It is true. It's true. But keep going, bro.
So we were going through workouts one day, and one of the guys, we had a smart guy on the team, and they kept bothering him. Pretty stocky guy, he was a walk-on, and they told us about your story, and everybody, man, there's no way that's true. So I guess a guy during workouts or practice, I don't know which one it was. They tried Myron. And they thought because he was smart, they thought it was gonna be sweet. They thought it was gonna be a sweet lick. So they said Myron put the paws on him, like really put the paws on him. I've been wanting to hear this for a minute from you. I'm like, man, I gotta hear this from him himself. They say Myron messed him up.
Yeah, no, it's true, Freddie. It's true, man. Yeah, they tried me, bro. They tried me. You know, they thought I was smart, thought I was a nerd. You know, coming from out of state. You know, some of the boys were like, man, we don't really respect players who don't come from the region. And I was like, all right, you know, let's see what time it is. So they put this dude on me and say, hey, man, you know, what can y'all do? Let's see if you're really as tough as people say you are, or can really meet the mettle of what we expect down here as far as toughness in Florida State. And yeah, man, I gave him some work, 2 pieces. But you know what? The thing was that fight was one where I was prepared, Freddie. I mean, I was watching Sugar Ray Leonard, Muhammad Ali, Roy Jones Jr. I was watching all their clips on YouTube and was shadowboxing in my house. Like, man, I said, if one of these boys try me, it's over, man. And that was it. I really beat him up bad. And from that day forward, coaches, players. I remember Coach Andrews, Mickey Andrews, called me and said, "God damn it, Myron! I didn't know that you could throw hands like that." I was like, "Hey, coach, y'all thought I ain't have it, man. Y'all thought I wasn't here, man. So I can study and I can knock you out too at the same time." So yeah, no, it's a true story, Freddie. It's true. I did put my paws on him, and it went well. Yeah,
that was an excellent. That was an excellent imitation of Mickey Andrews too. Oh, it was perfect. What was it like playing for those guys? I mean, we just watched Bowden from a distance, but what was Coach Bowden like, man?
Yeah, Coach Bowden was he was like a grandfather figure. I mean, he was so he was a stalwart. He was just like there, rock steady, and you know that he was not going to be moved by any distractions or moved by any sort of superfluous frills. Basically, he was there for you as a player, there for you as a man, as a human, developing yourself in your faith and developing yourself as just a future father, a future leader, beyond just the field. And I mean, the stories he would give us from Paul Bear Bryant, his time in Alabama, the stories he would give us about former players, he always had something that he could link to a past experience. Nothing was ever new to him. And obviously that comes with age and wisdom and seeing a lot of things. But, if there was a situation at practice or on the field, he would say, this was like something that happened in 1974. And we're like, Coach, man, none of us were alive then. But it was great to hear him sort of make those connections and say, look, don't worry. Don't get scared. Don't fret, because I've been here before. I've seen how this plays out. We're going to be better on the other side of it. And having a coach who has that sort of confidence in himself, in his program, in us as players, meant a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. So Double Fries No Slaw is the name of the podcast. We mentioned it, and you're kind of watching us earlier. Did you ever have Guthrie's while you were there in town? I know that's not the most healthy thing to ask
that good old gut box. That good old gut box.
Yeah, there we go.
Come on, man. That good old gut box.
Fan. Yeah. I'll send you a shirt. We've got the logo. The logo and the name is the coolest thing about the podcast. I mean, it's cool talking to NFL players and neurosurgeons and stuff too, but the Double Fries No Slaw is like the best part. Good. I'm just glad you had it. We talked with somebody the other day and they said they never had it when they were in school. Charlie Ward. Charlie Ward told us he'd never had it. I'm like, come on, man.
You got to have that good old gut box. I mean, there's parts of Tallahassee that, I mean, just can't be duplicated, man. I'm talking about, DJ Demp. I'm talking about, the Moon, on Saturdays. I'm talking about the gut box you mentioned, Waffle House, all these different experiences, going to FAM, trying to go over to FAMU on Fridays when they had their set, when all the Greek organizations came out, and act like you were a FAMU student so you can talk to all the girls over there. I mean, some of the things that happened in Tallahassee, again, these are things that we talk about in our group chats with some of the older boys and just sort of reminisce about. And it's never the same. I mean, I walk into Harvard and I'm like, man, this is not FAMU. This is not Tallahassee. This is something totally different. But at the same time, I think being developed there and finding my purpose in Tallahassee and meeting some wonderful friends who will be my lifetime brothers, guys who are in my wedding. It's just it's amazing. So yeah, it was great.
Do you keep up much with the NFL? Just with all the other play, like, do you have an NFL team, or is it kind of tough because you got so many buddies and stuff that play, or where do you kind of find yourself lying there?
Yeah, so actually, this is probably something I should have mentioned to y'all as well. I just signed on to be a medical and sports correspondent for MSC Sports Boston. So I'll be covering the Patriots games every Sunday. I did my first one today. Obviously, being in Boston, very close with the Kraft family. The Krafts actually are on the board of my hospital. And I know Jonathan Kraft pretty well. Josh Kraft, he runs the Boys and Girls Club in Boston. I've done some community outreach stuff with him. And then Jason and Devin McCourty are very close to me. Jason McCourty and I play together with the Tennessee Titans. Brandon Copeland's another player on the team, Matt Slater. So there's a lot of, cross link between myself and the Patriots just by proximity, but also just by, my past experiences. I like to see the Titans do well, having drafted me and give me an opportunity to play. The Steelers as well also. But then seeing my boys go out and do their thing. Obviously any team Jameis is on, I'm going to cheer for. Any team that Florida State's represented, I'm going to cheer for.
I like it.
So we do it. We do it, man. We got to do it.
Yeah,
unfortunately,
Myron.
Tampa. Yeah, I've lived in Tampa my whole life, and when we drafted Jameis, it was like the best day of my life. And then I jumped ship, bro. I'm all Saints right now, so very good. My whole family hates me. Richie hates me. It's great.
Yeah, I hate TJ, but man, I guess the Patriots, they didn't miss out on my guy Tom Brady too much today, though. Cam looks pretty good out there today.
Cam looked good, man. Cam, whoa, Cam. That's my boy, man. He got to do it. I told Jason, J-Mac, I said, Jason, man, I said, when Cam gets in town, let's take him out to eat, man. Let's show him what Boston's about. And he said, man, it's a pandemic. I said, you're right. Let's let him focus. Let's have him focus, get his outfit, his pregame outfit right. He looked good today. He looked real dapper, and he picked up, and he doesn't have a lot of great receivers to work with, or a known receivers to work with. But he's making it happen, and I'm happy for him. I want to see him succeed. And another thing I like to say too is that I saw this stat today, which I thought was remarkable, especially in the setting of social injustice and trying to provide some racial equity. There were, I think, 10 Black starting quarterbacks in Week 1 this year in the NFL. That's unprecedented. I think that's the most, if I'm not mistaken, the most ever. And I think if you think about where we've come from, players who were athletic, who were talented quarterbacks being shifted and moved to, one of those skill positions based on the fact that maybe they just didn't fit the right look of a quarterback. Mm-hmm. Those 6'6" guys who can stand in the pocket like statues. That means a lot. That's progress for sure. Long way to go still, but we're getting there. The next thing I like to see is owners and front office personnel, coaches be more representative of the actual players, the 70% of players who are Black in the NFL.
Yeah, I'm hoping Jameis gets a starting spot by at some point during the season. We can increase that number up a little bit too, because I'm all team Jameis on that too. But Richie probably wants to see that too. Just because Richie will cheer for him to throw interceptions. He's a terrible fan.
So so the NFL, there's 2 days that are always interesting in my family. My wife is from New Orleans, so she's a huge Drew Brees and Saints fan. So we watched the game today. Obviously, she's the happy person, and she has been the past several years. But one more quick question back to Cam Myron. How happy are you that he left that school in Gainesville and went to Auburn, so we can actually feel good about cheering for that guy?
Very happy, man. Very happy. I'm all for Cam. I think Cam, he gets a bad rap sometimes. I think that he gets a lot of brunt of displeasure that goes beyond just his play. It's sort of his whole personality, his whole being, his whole identity. If Cam is upset about a game, he's frustrated, he's got a bad attitude, he's sulking. But if, Tom Brady, throws his helmet down or yells at a coach, he's got passion. Look at the leadership that he's got. It's sort of always been looked at sort of differently for the gentleman. So I'm happy that he's in a structured environment and with Bill Belichick up in the Patriots. I think he can do great things there. From the reports from the players I know in the locker room, he is buying in and he's all about the team. He took a little bit of money just to come to New England. So, he really wants to play, and he's on his sort of redemption quest and his redemption journey. And it's going to be Deion Sanders told me one time when I was in the Dallas airport, random story. I was in the Dallas airport and he told me, we dapped each other up again, brotherhood. And I just obviously love Prime. He goes, Myron, he's like, what you don't want to see is a man who's been backed against a corner and has got no way out. Basically, that person will fight, and they'll fight to get their way out of that corner beyond measure, beyond what you thought they were capable of doing. I think Cam has been pushed into a corner where he's like, I'll take a little bit of money. I'll be forgotten about. Y'all don't have to talk about me, but I'm here to grind and show you what I can do and allow my talent to be displayed. And the fact that he wore the orange and blue for Auburn more so than for UF is helpful for sure for someone like myself.
Yeah, man.
That burnt orange and blue is a lot better. Go ahead.
So I actually have 2 sisters in Charlotte, and my nephew, he's a senior high school quarterback. He's probably going to look at Group of 5 right now. But I know he's been growing up in the Charlotte area while Cam Newton was the face of the Panthers. And I know him and my brother-in-law, they can't say enough good about how involved Cam was with the youth of the Charlotte area and everything he did for the community, because they don't really report that for whatever reason. But I know for a fact that he's extremely involved. And my nephew and all his friends, they all had Cam Newton jerseys. They're huge fans just because he was such a great face of that franchise for as long as he was there. So it was unfortunate to see how he kind of got pushed out. But I do think, the Patriots, they're a team to keep an eye on. I'll be excited to watch him this season there.
Well, they still have the Dolphins and Jets in their division. Yeah. So, they're still going to win the division, right? The Jets today, oh my gosh. So, yeah, anyway. All right, Myron. Well, we appreciate you hanging out, man. I know that we've been on here with you for a little while now, and thank you so much for taking the time. Thank you for all you do, to give back and, really just, there's a lot of great football players that have come through, and I know you get told this a lot, but there's a lot of great football players that have come through and really made a big difference at Florida State. But we really look at you and we really believe that you are one of the ones, and not that there's not a bunch of them, with Dunn and Brooks and Warwick and all them, but you're one of the ones that are truly changing the world. And it makes us proud as FSU fans and supporters and stuff like that. And so we couldn't appreciate you more. So I appreciate you so much for your time, and send Freddie your address and stuff. We'll send you a double fried shirt too. You can rep Guthrie's up at rep it all up in Boston. People are like, what in the world is this guy doing? I know they like their coleslaw there.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, thanks guys for having me, man. This is awesome. And Freddie, appreciate you, brother. Thanks for having me on too, man. Thank you guys.
Take care.
Appreciate it, Myron.
Myron Rolle, good stuff, man. That was man, Freddie. I hope all these guys in this NFL have that same attitude that Myron has once the offseason comes around too. That whole I'm jumping on, but all these guys in the NFL you played with, so I feel pretty good about this. Hopefully you didn't piss anybody off that was on the 13, 14, 15 teams.
Freddie, you never gave anybody that Myron two-piece, right?
Well, I ain't have no issues that I'm quiet. So a lot of people, when you quiet, a lot of people be kind of scared to try it. They be trying to, but I ain't really had that issue.
Myron was awesome. A really good interview. He really hit on a lot of things. I'm excited. I'm just busy. I know we're all busy, but I don't really listen to a lot of podcasts just because I feel like I'm on too many and we do too many. But I'm excited to go back and listen to that tomorrow morning on my way to work. Myron was really, really good. And it was so good that I want to hear it again. It's tough to listen so intently when, you're running it and you want things to go well and you're trying to coordinate questions on the back end. So yeah, I'm excited to listen back. Man, we had a rough day on Saturday on the field. We had a good day on Saturday in our Discord. We had 50, 100 people in there. Chat was hopping and jumping. I know the game didn't go the way we wanted, but that was really a lot of fun. We had talked a lot about how we were going to do a game day chat for the Patreons. We made it free for everybody, and we had a bunch of people jump in there and really enjoy it. We had some people that we made it free for the first one. We are going to put it behind the Patreon wall so we can really be in depth with the people that are supporting. But we had a couple people go sign up after sitting in there and chatting all day and said, we really appreciate you doing this. And so we're going to go sign up so we can be part of it again. So go to patreon.com/doublefriespod and sign up. We also did a really, really quick, maybe it was 30 minutes reaction podcast right through the Discord app. So all you had to do was click the button, and we were chatting in there all day. And then you click one button in there and we did kind of a very somber reaction show. It was free. So if you were part of that, we really kind of went into our thoughts on it. We'll talk a little bit, about this later. But we really kind of went heavy there. And so sign up for our Patreon and hit the Discord because it was really a good time on Saturday. If you're watching this on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, wherever, click share, click retweet, click like, tag a friend in it, put it in a group. Man, we have come out. We had a guest that was scheduled last week that I moved to this week and I forgot about, another FSU legend that I completely forgot about. And he was texting me today. I was like, hey man, we're so good for tonight. And I was like, oh, we actually bumped you for a Rhodes Scholar. I just told him we'll move him to next week. But we have come out of the gate swinging with Cromartie and Ward. And Myron Rolle and who else? DeMarcus Walker and just all kind of guys. The fullback episode was super dope. So appreciate those that have supported us. And if you have a little bit of money, go to patreon.com/doublefriespod and put some down so we can hang out every weekend. We will be doing the game day chat most weeks. All weeks. We'll probably even jump in there and talk crap about Miami on Saturday night, I would think, if they go on the road and lose to Louisville. But we'll do certainly the reaction show after every game as well, which I thought that went really, really well. So all that said, I guess we can – I'm good with whatever you guys want to do. We'll have 2 weeks to kind of break down, analyze this game, and look forward to the next one. I don't think we have to spend a ton of time talking about Georgia Tech, but we can kind of talk about the game a little bit here as much as you guys want in depth or not in depth and go from there. But, again, take it away, Richie.
Yeah, man, and we kind of said from episode 1 we're not going to do deep dives into like box scores and advanced metrics and stuff like that. We'll look at them and use them when that's valid. But after 1 week, none of those numbers really matter at all. But I'm just curious, did you guys feel any different today when you woke up, or do you feel different now than you did 24 hours ago when we last spoke?
I don't know. I feel annoyed, right? I think that I've tweeted this today, but I think as you get older, and I don't know that I've matured much, but I definitely am just busier. So I feel like I've matured and have kids. And then you go through 2 seasons, like 2-3 seasons like we've had. Like, I just feel like all the emotion is kind of beat out of me. Like, I don't really get upset after losses. I'm sure that if we go on a couple runs like Freddie's years where we go 13-14-0, I'll start getting emotional when we lose again. But all the emotion's kind of gone. I'm just kind of annoyed. I think that I'm annoyed at a few things. One of them probably just being our expectations being, high, that things were going to turn around as quickly as they should have or we thought they would in a global pandemic when, you've had no spring, you've had a shortened off season and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, I'm annoyed. I'm frustrated. I still think we should have won yesterday. I mean, if we don't cough up a fumble late, if we, are just a little sharper. I said this, if Terry catches that pass in the first half and is streaking down the sideline, I mean, we go up 17-0. I think the game's kind of over then. But yeah, I mean, I'm frustrated. I'm annoyed by it. I didn't really go back and watch it yet, but I think that we really could have gotten beat by even more if they didn't have a couple of red zone turnovers and field goal blocks. So we just weren't even close on Saturday. We had our chances, but we weren't close. And so we're going to have to regroup and see if we can find a way to get to, we need to get to 6 wins. And I think below 500 is kind of a bad thing. So anyway, those were probably my thoughts yesterday with less alcohol today.
Yeah, I think this game kind of reminds me of the North Carolina game we had a few years ago at home when they beat us with that late field goal. Guys are going to come back in and watch film and just see how close they were to making these plays. And I know we get tired of repeating this, but they're getting – I think on the opposite side, we were put in a position to make plays. We just got to execute, and we need better QB play. This offense, we can be successful with it, but going forward, we just got to – if Blackman isn't the guy, we got to try out one of these younger guys, because at this point, what do we get out of playing with an older guy? We got to start molding these younger guys into these roles, and if they're not the guy, then oh well, because we know what Blackman brings to the table, and if he would have stepped up in this game, it would have looked a lot different. I don't want to put everything on him, but it is what it is. It's big boy football. Guys could have helped him out, and we could have helped him out on defense. But we got to rise to the challenge. Only thing I could take away from that game as a major positive is, we special teams.
Let's go.
Hey, they weren't lying when they said they were putting emphasis on special teams. We look great on special teams.
Yeah, man. And I think, we touched on it last night a little bit, but the same thing I think for me, the most frustrating part of the game was how good James Blackman looked in those first, what we know are the scripted plays, right? That they rep in practice constantly. He knows what order, he knows what play is going to be next. He looked comfortable when he was pressured and he didn't have anything. He threw the ball away. His first 2.5 drives, that if we got that James Blackman for the whole game, we would have won. But we did see him revert back. yeah, we see him revert back a little bit. You know, he throws the one bad interception, and the second one was really bad, and miss some guys. And TJ, you hit on it, Terry. It's not all black when Terry dropped a 75-yard touchdown. So it's, I guess, the biggest thing for me, and I'm trying to be as positive as I can, because I do think that we looked better coached. We looked more organized. We saw a lot of the things we wanted to see. But defense wasn't great. I expected to see a defensive or dominant defensive line, and I didn't see that. But when they got in the red zone, they were really good. I know they gave up about 500 yards or so, but still to hold up to 16 points only, that's really good for a defense in their first game in a brand new scheme against, a Power 5 opponent. And Georgia Tech, I get it. I don't think we know what Georgia Tech is this year either, though. So we talk about week one overreactions, right? So we don't know what Georgia Tech is or what they're going to be. We know they were really bad last year. But we'll see. Maybe they take that step in year two, and maybe they're a little ahead of schedule with Collins than we thought. I don't feel great about the season because I thought this was one of the easiest teams to beat on the schedule. But at the same time, I did see a lot of good things. Freddie, you mentioned special teams was outstanding. Take away the 3 blocked kicks. I thought the coverage, everybody, they were in their lanes. They knew where they were going. The pursuit was really good. They just looked like they had practiced it. And we know last year they didn't have a special team coordinator. So trying to think about it. And again, we don't play next week, thankfully. So we have plenty of time to really figure out what we're looking at. And then we go right into Miami, and they played Louisville this week. Maybe we'll hop in the Discord chat for that, TJ and Freddie, talk some Miami Louisville, because that's, we got to play next. And I'll just say this. I think Jeff Sims looks pretty good, man. I think he's going to be a problem in 2 or 3 years. Luckily we don't have to play Georgia Tech that often, because I think that kid can play at a high level in the college game, and I was happy to see him play well. Unfortunately, he's part of the reason we lost, but it was good to see him go out and play as well as he did.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you too. Like, right, I thought this was one of the easy ones. I mean, I'll tell you this. I said every game on the schedule was losable before we kicked off, besides the Jacksonville State. Now, I thought most games on the schedule were winnable too, right? Yeah. Minus Clemson, Notre Dame. I still think that every game on the schedule minus Clemson, Notre Dame is winnable. Like, Florida State could win any game, but I'm just telling you, Georgia Tech was again, unless they just made a huge jump, which I don't really necessarily think is going to be the case. I think that Georgia Tech's still the second worst team we play this year besides Jacksonville State. And so we've got to improve to not go 1-10, right? We just do. If we put that effort out against any other ACC team that we play, I don't think they will win. The defense, I think, needs to improve as well. I know they got the 2 picks. Those were really, really bad passes by Sims. And they were driving on us, right? Like, it wasn't like we got those to start a drive. I mean, those took points off the board. If he doesn't throw those, they either get touchdowns or field goal attempts that probably get blocked because we were so good there. But yeah, I mean, those were not like, oh man, those are amazing play. I mean, those are just bad, true freshman passes by Sims. And so I think the defense leaves a little to be desired as well. I mean, we only gave up 16 points, but we had 7 points blocked, right, by the special teams. And then, they were down inside the red zone again twice, so that's anywhere from 3 to 14 more points that we could have given up. And we really probably should have been on the hook for 24, 28, 31 points, somewhere in that range, if not for, those big plays. But those big plays did happen. And I don't want to take anything away from the defense, because at the end of the day, they did hold them to 16 points. But I think even that's a little bit misleading. The offense and defense definitely have to improve. I think that's one of the worst offenses we're going to play this year too. So it's going to get harder for the defense too. It'll be very, very interesting to see what Louisville and Miami look like. A lot of Miami fans and people that I follow are saying that Miami just didn't show anything. They didn't put anything on tape for the UAB game. I don't know that I believe that. I thought that the run pass option play, if you weren't putting anything on tape, that run pass option play is not something you'd have pulled out against UAB when you were already up 2 scores. I think you'd have tried to save that. Louisville's a 1-point favorite. The ESPN adjusted their percentage. It was 82% for Louisville to win. Now it's down to 76.7. So giving Miami a little bit better credit there. But 17 versus 18 matchup early in the year. I mean, the game will be huge for both teams. And I think that, yeah, we should, if we can, I mean, 7:30, if we can jump in the Discord to chat with folks about that. Maybe we'll leave that free again one more time since it's not FSU. That would be good. But I'm hoping that, Louisville comes out and just smacks them in the mouth and beats them down and makes me feel better about that game. Because right now I don't feel great about that game. You guys both pick that as wins. I would assume that maybe that is flipped, but we all had 8-3. What's your record look like for the rest of the year now, guys?
Ooh, dang. I guess we got to ask that question again after we play them because right now it ain't looking good. But yeah, I don't want to rush to judgment. They got 2 weeks to get prepared for this game. We'll see what adjustments they make. And it's a rivalry game. You never know what can happen in a rivalry game. We may see a completely different team. So we'll see what team shows up.
Yeah, and I'm doing my best not to be a victim of week 1 overreactions, right? Iowa State came in top 25. Matt Campbell, a guy a lot of Florida State fans had as the, outside of Bob Stoops as their number one choice to take over for us. And they come out and lose to a team they had no business losing to. We saw that throughout the country. There's been a lot of weird outcomes. I do think year 1 coaches are at a really big disadvantage. They didn't have a spring. You don't have a summer where the players can do 7-on-7s with what they learned in the spring. So you're kind of rushed out to all of this out of nowhere. It's tough to tell. And I'm not sold on Miami. Their defense is going to be really good. They'll probably be a top 10 defense with the amount of teams playing this year. But that offense, I mean, it was all Derek King just kind of running around and just kind of making things happen with his legs. His throwing numbers weren't great. But he's a guy that, we kind of saw that with Jeff Sims a little bit this weekend where, he couldn't really figure out where to throw the ball. So he just took off running and it worked out for him. So we had to clean that up. But yeah, like TJ said, every game's winnable, every game's losable. We're not beating Clemson. I still disagree with you a little bit on Notre Dame. I thought Duke played them really well. I'm not sure how good Duke will be this year. I don't have that as an auto loss. It's a likely loss, but it's all going to be about how the team responds. Because if they do lose to Miami, they're going to be 0-2 after 3 weeks. At that point, it's going to be the frustration. This is the danger part because this program, it's full of players that are used to losing now. And when things go south, they're like, oh well, here we go again. Florida State led for 50 minutes yesterday, and the second things went south, we kind of saw that again. So it's the culture and mentality. When they have a game where they turn it around and they do pull it out, they make a play and pull it out, I think they start to believe. So this season, they could win 3 games, they could win 7. I don't know, but we'll find out together. Yeah,
the ESPN, and I hate to keep bringing that up, or the adjustment, or ESPN adjusted that down as well to Florida State with a 56% chance to win, Miami with 44.
Even
so
after
still
this
giving us
weekend.
And beats Louisville pretty good. I would think that jumps
sure.
back their way to probably 60%, right? 60-40. But it seems like ESPN's still buying in. So I don't, again, don't want to overreact week 1. I think that if we do react to it, I kind of chop the schedule up like this. I mean, we can disagree on Notre Dame. That's totally fine. But the way I see it is Clemson, Notre Dame are losses. Jacksonville State's still an absolute win. And then you've got half of the schedule is this. I've got NC State, Virginia, Duke as games Florida State should probably still win. And so there's 4 wins there with Jacksonville State. And then I've got, if we play like we did yesterday, UNC, Louisville, Pittsburgh, and North Carolina, Louisville, Pittsburgh, and Miami as losses, right? And so then you're looking at 4-7. So I think we need to find a way to make 2 of those losses between UNC, Miami, Louisville, and Pitt. We need to turn those 2 of those into wins. And it probably just starts next week for all the reasons that Richie just said. So much confidence we would get after breaking Miami's streak of 3 straight wins and probably beating a ranked team, right? Miami, even if they lose to Louisville, will probably remain ranked because there's no Big Ten or, Pac-12 teams in there, right? So everybody's ranking is kind of inflated right now, unless you're, a top 5 team or whatever. But so I think that would be huge for the team to rebound. And then, if you beat Miami, again, we've talked about this. Miami's probably the third most talented team we're going to play this year, as far as a pure talent on the roster standpoint goes. So if you win that, you can beat anybody, again, maybe with the exception of those big two. So, any other thoughts on Georgia Tech season outlook? I know that this is kind of depressing, but any other thoughts on the game or anything else with that, or no?
Not really. I mean, I guess the way I'm looking at things right now, a few weeks ago, we didn't know if we'd even have football. So yeah, yesterday's outcome sucks. Again, it's just one game. If we had opened with a cupcake and won and lost to Georgia Tech the next week, people would still be upset. It's just the placement of the game. It is what it is. But again, I need to see a spread. I need to see more of Miami because I don't know. I still think they're definitely beatable. But if you do go out and beat Miami in 2 weeks, most people are going to kind of forget about this Georgia Tech game because, okay, it's first game. We had weird things happening. We had a lot of injuries that had positions we could not afford them. Still had a chance to win the game late. And then you go out and beat Miami. Well, then you kind of got a chance to go from there and build on that. So the season's not lost yet. It sucks losing the 4 straight openers in a row. And it doesn't help when you have Notre Dame, LSU, the next 3 openers. But at the same time, the season is, again, it's one game. Let's not trying to eat anybody yet, except, including Blackman. Obviously he didn't look good for the majority of the game, but let's give him a few games in Norvell's system and see what happens. Because I'm still personally excited. I know a lot of Florida State fans and a lot of friends I know, they've kind of checked out already after yesterday, but I know I'm still excited about the season and to see what could happen. I want to see some growth.
Yeah, and I think another thing that people should realize is a lot of these young guys, they're going to get opportunities going into this Miami game. They got a lot of opportunities on defense, and it's hard to just throw them in there as starters first week when they haven't played games. We all know guys that play well in practice but get in the games and they kind of freeze up in the moment. But some of these guys showed up. I like what Diggs displayed. He looked good out there to me. I think he'll be a star in our defense. So going forward, I would love to see him in the game playing guys like that bring energy. Nothing against the other guys, but just speaking on the younger guys, we'll see more guys getting opportunities after showcasing what they can do in the game. And this next week of game planning, it'll be major. So going into this next game, don't be surprised heading to Miami if we see the depth chart shaking up a little bit.
Yeah, no, and like you said, I agree with Richie there. If I had told you at the very beginning, or if I had told you even 3 days ago, hey, we can lose to Georgia Tech and beat Miami, or beat Georgia Tech and lose to Miami, and we would have taken beating Miami as much as it sucks to lose your opener. So yeah, what I said the other day was we need to see progress from Norvell from week to week, right? And it doesn't have to be anything massive. Florida State did look more competent than yesterday than they did at all last year or the year before. We had 11 guys on the field every play. Everybody was lined up looking the right way. There weren't a lot of procedural penalties. There were a couple that you're going to get just in any game, that's not just gone from Florida State now that we moved on to a new coach. But I think there were things and reasons for optimism. Obviously you want to win the game. You want to make mistakes and learn through them while you're winning, but we didn't. And so it's move on to Miami. Speaking of a team that did win, we talked about this a little bit with Myron Rolle. My Saints won today, Richie. We don't have to rehash that. But I will say, I don't think Breeze looked really good either, but Brady, you could tell it was a new offense. Brady does a good job of getting rid of the ball faster, but he, on those 3rd and longs, which a lot of times the Bucs, because they don't have a super, super solid running game, when the Bucs do get into 3rd and long, you've got to hold on to the ball longer, right? Like there's no getting the ball out quick because you need guys to get 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 yards downfield to be able to pass it. And that takes 3 to 4 seconds. And that's kind of where Brady had to throw the ball away a few times and had to kind of ground stuff or get it out of bounds or just kind of move. That's where I think that, the Bucs are a little bit limited, but I think the Saints just played a really, really clean game. The Bucs played a really, really just terrible game. Brady made mistakes. Evans made mistakes. The defense made stupid mistakes. The special teams wasn't good. but I think the Bucks will put it together too. I mean, just saying that. I still think the Saints win the division just from the continuity standpoint, but I think the Bucks still get to 9, 10, 11 wins. Richie, any thoughts there?
Yeah, man, it went about as you kind of would expect it. You know, Tampa Bay, they have all these new pieces. That you have a new quarterback with a new head coach. They're trying to essentially combine their offenses together, because let's not pretend Byron Leftwich is the offensive coordinator. This is the Bruce Arians, Tom Brady show. Some unfortunate things, you know, that blocked field goal, that the defender just walked right through it. He didn't even block it, hit his face mask. Like that one had no chance. I thought Brady was okay. You know, you could tell there were some, you know, like the Mike Evans interception where Evans kind of stops the route, and we all kind of, again, I still like Jameis. We've seen all that with Jameis the past few years, and it didn't stop today with Tom Brady, how we kind of thought it would, where every receiver is not going to just be perfect just because it's Tom Brady. But you know, if that, obviously we have the 15-yard penalty and they're kicking off from the 50, and that was just, the team looked lost on that play where the Saints get the ball right back. They pooch it up to about the 20. The Bucks, one player tries to catch it, runs into another one, and the game's over at that point. But you're playing one of the top 5 Vegas favorites to win the Super Bowl in their stadium on the first week of the season. I'm not mad about the loss. You know, we'll see. It'll be an interesting stretch. Again, it's week 1. We don't want to overreact to anything. We saw a lot of weird results in the NFL this weekend, but I'm happy with the Bucks. You know, we'll see it. Get me to the playoffs. We haven't been there in a long time.
They play the Panthers next week, who are also coming off of a late loss to the Raiders, which that was a great game. I had it on Red Zone, which is like the best thing about Sundays to me. I mean, minus like, you know, your team playing. And so it'll be interesting to see how the Bucks look against a team that they are more talented than, right? Or that isn't like, I mean, the Saints, the Saints' core has been together forever. So I thought this was the second toughest game on the Bucks schedule. I didn't think the Bucks would win. I think they had their chances, but they just made a billion mistakes. I mean, they should win Sunday. And if they lose to the Panthers, then I think it's kind of time to say, like, okay, well, you know, what's going on here? Obviously, some irony in the fact that Brady threw 2 picks, one of them going for 6 the other way. You know, whatever. I mean, obviously that's just, you know, par for the course in Tampa at this point. But yeah, I think they'll rebound and get better. Yeah. And I still have like 10 or 11 wins for the Bucks this year. But the Bucks just still, to me, aren't a great organization, and dumb organizations do dumb things like that. And so you're going to have games where even if Brady hadn't thrown the pick 6, the Bucks probably lose today by 10-ish or maybe just 7 or whatever. Because of the stupid things that the Bucks did, you know, like the stupid pass interferences, the face mask that led to the pooch kick, and you know, everything else. So, you know, bad organizations make plays like that, and so you certainly can't do it against, you know, the second toughest team that you play all year, the best team in your division, maybe conference, and then, you know, we'll see if they can avoid those types of mistakes. You know, for the rest of the year and against the teams that they are better than. So, other than that, I don't have too much more. Do you guys have anything else tonight? We've been on for about an hour and a half. I think I'm good. Anything on Georgia Tech, the NFL coming back, Miami in 2 weeks? I think we're pretty set. Myron Rolle.
Yeah. We'll have next week will be fun. You know, obviously we're going to skip the Thursday show this week since we do not have a game. But next week we'll be back Sunday we'll probably recap some college football and some NFL on what happened and get into Miami a little bit. And then next Thursday, I guess, TJ, and Fred, we got to figure out what we're going to do. Potentially have some of the guys from Storm Surge on here and a little back and forth. And it'll be a lot of fun. You know, the next game we play is a rivalry, and you know what happened yesterday doesn't really matter as far as that game's go. Remember, Georgia Tech, they were worse last year and they beat Miami. Miami, I don't want to see any of this defeatist things going on, saying, oh, we have no chance against Miami. No, Miami, they are the same program they've been for the past 15, 17 years. They are a team we can be, and we'll get into that next week.
Yeah, they don't really worry me too much. I mean, we'll see kind of what Miami is able to do, but they're not a team that I'm like, oh God, we have no chance against Miami. I'd feel better if we had won yesterday.
For sure.
But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter, like we have to come out and we'd have to come out and play anyway. I'm picking Miami at this point, but I'm sure I'll be a homer and take us when we get a little closer. So,
I'm picking
you guys have any shot? Yeah, probably not. Hope the spread comes out like Miami plus 10. I'll take that. Florida State plus 10. So, you guys have any shout outs or anything before we get out of here?
No, just shout out my buddy Kyle. He leaves for Navy boot camp tomorrow morning. So, well, he's got to do a 14-day quarantine, and then he's going to boot camp, going into special warfare. Leaves tomorrow morning. So, shout out Kyle, man. Go do your thing. And he's got a lovely girl and a beautiful young child, and I know he's excited, and his family is. And just best of luck to you, man.
Appreciate your service, man. And I'm glad I'm not the one going to boot camp this week. Although Freddie and me have been in boot camp. Freddie, how many you down now?
Hey man, we ain't got no scale out here. They tripping on me. But
I see you on the water.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm feeling good. I can see it in the mirror. That's the biggest thing. It's more so about the look for me. So I know it's working.
There you go.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, dope. We'll be here again. Unless something crazy happens, no show this week until next Sunday. Hopefully, knock on wood, nothing crazy happens to where we have to get on here, but no preview show because we've got nothing to preview. We'll definitely do something with the Storm Surge guys next week. Hopefully Thursday works for them. I mean, we just have to kind of check schedules, but we can be flexible if needed. And then, like I said, we'll be back on Sunday. If you can, like, share, retweet, post this. We're going to send a couple thousand people listen to it on iTunes every week. If you'll just tweet out to your page, share it on Facebook, give us a follow on Instagram, Double Fries Pod. I think we're going to be doing another giveaway on Instagram this week. So we got tagged in the girl that won the Junkman Doug stuff, the vintage stuff. She tagged us over the weekend. She wore her stuff to somewhere in Tallahassee. It looked like College Town to me, but I have no idea. So good stuff. Appreciate everybody's support. Appreciate the guys that help make this happen behind the scenes. Brian, Harlan, and Ed. I work with some of the best team around with you five guys and us six in total. So appreciate you guys.
One more
Richie,
thing, TJ.
You got a song?
One more thing real quick. I forgot. I can't believe I forgot to bring this up. Do you know who is, and we'll go through our over-unders on the next podcast, but guess who is sixth in the nation hunting yards per average right now?
Oh, we didn't go over our over-under.
And I don't have them. We'll do the next one. But guess he's number 6 in the country right now at 48.3 yards a kick.
43.8?
48.3.
48.3. So he went over. I lost that one.
He went over on that one. And his long was 50, so he was consistent. I thought, man, my Aussie can boot it. So that's a positive that we'll leave you with today. We have
all of our positives are special teams, man. Blocks and punting, bro. All right. Richie, take us out of here with a song. Laying Down Under or something. What you got?
Oh, am I up today?
Yeah. I don't like to give any notice on this.
No, you don't. Let me think here. Give me just because it came on. We were at a cookout at my buddy Cody's house on the way home. It's a short one to get